Hi, I decided to do a little video reviewing all the subjunctive conjugations and the uses of subjunctive that you have studied until the date to help you a little bit with it. Um, this is 102 material, the conjugation, but we can have a little review on this. As you remember, we have three types of infinitives in Spanish, the AR, ER, and IR. And each type has what we call the characteristic vowel and the opposite vowel. In the case of AR verbs, the characteristic is the A and the opposite is the E. ER and IR they have the E as characteristic, but the opposite is the A. In the AR verbs, the characteristic vowel, the A, will rule the conjugation in indicative. Amo, amas, ama. Amamos, amáis, aman. And the opposite vowel, the E, will rule the conjugation of subjunctive. Yo ame, ames, ames, that shouldn't be an S. That should be ame, amemos, améis, amen. In the ER, the indicative will conjugate with the E, which is the characteristic vowel. Como, comes, come, comemos, coméis, comen. And the opposite, the A, will rule the conjugation of subjunctive. Coma, comas, coma, comamos, comáis, coman. In the IR, the E will rule the conjugation of indicative. Vivo, vives, vive, vivimos, vivís, viven. And the A will rule the conjugation of the subjunctive. Viva, vivas, viva, vivamos, viváis, viven. So we have seen that we have used the subjunctive in several situations. One of them is what are called the nominative clauses. In the nominative clauses, we need to see three main things for the subjunctive to happen. We need to see, first thing, that we have this structure, that we have a main clause, a nexus in the middle, okay, and then a dependent or subordinate clause. In the main clause, we'll see the second component, which is the trigger, what we call the trigger. Remember our word weirdo? Weirdo is wish, an expression of wish or desire, an expression of emotion, and we learned several verbs or expressions that were actually triggers of subjunctive. Alegrarse de, esperar, gustar, molestar, sentir, sorprender, temer, tener miedo de, es extraño, es una lástima, es ridículo, es terrible, es triste y ojalá. Todas son expresiones que están en el libro. We also saw impersonal expressions. Some of the ones in emotion are actually impersonal. We saw doubt, disbelief, or denial when we express that in the main clause. Dudar, negar, no creer, no es seguro, no estar seguro, no es cierto, no es verdad, es imposible, es improbable, no es posible, no es probable. When we saw that, and we saw that subject 1 was different than subject 2, then subjunctive is going to happen in the subordinate clause. But watch out, ojo. Expressions like no dudar, no cabe duda, no hay duda, no niego, creo, estoy seguro de, es cierto, es seguro, es verdad, es obvio. Those are expressions of certainty, and those expressions are not gonna result in a subjunctive in the subordinate clause, but they're gonna result in the use of indicative. So that's something we need to always keep in mind. The next case we saw was the adverbial clauses. The adverbial clauses also have this structure, right? We had a complex clause, a main part of the clause, a nexus or a conjunction, and then the subordinate clause. And we saw that there were certain adverbs that always resulted in the use of a subjunctive in the subordinate clause. And these are a menos que, antes de que, con tal de que, en caso de que, para que y sin que. Y por supuesto, always subject number 1 different than subject number 2. But watch out, ojo. If subject number 1 is the same as subject number 2, conjunctions as antes de que, para que o sin que lose the que, they lose the que, And then they use an infinitive instead of a subjunctive. Infinitive, remember, is a verb that ends up in an AR, ER, or IR. Now we have another type of conjunctions that sometimes require the use of subjunctive and sometimes the use of indicative. These are cuando, después de que, en cuanto, hasta que, tan pronto como. And when these conjunctions are used with an action that is talking about a habitual present or a past action, then we will use the indicative. But if we're talking about an action that is going to happen in the future or we don't know if it's going to happen, then we will use the subjunctive. Remember the example we always mention. Te llamaré cuando llegue. Te llamaré, something future. Cuando, the conjunction. Llegue in the subjunctive. The last case is the adjectival clauses. This is the one we have seen the most recently. In this case of use of subjunctive, we also have the complex clause, we have a main clause, we have a nexus, and then we have the subordinate clause. The most commonly used one is que. In the main clause, we have what we call the antecedent, which is the word or the thing that is going to be modified by this sentence. When the antecedent is not existent or there are doubts on its existence, then we're going to use the subjunctive. Some common verbs used in this type of sentence son buscar, conocer, encontrar, haber, necesitar, o querer. However, if the antecedent exists, the speaker believes that it exists or knows that it exists, then we'll use an indicative. So remember, busco. Remember the advertisement we did for Pedrito in the newspaper when he was looking for a girlfriend? Oh, we were looking for a girlfriend for him. We say, busco una mujer que hable español. Hable is going to be in subjunctive because we don't know if that woman exists. However, if we know that thing or person exists, we'll go to the library and we'll say, busco el libro que habla de China. I'm looking for that book that talks about China, that specific book that we know exists, and that's why we're going to be using the indicative.